Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Douglas Conservation Commission meeting, date of March 4th,
Yes.
2024. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast by local address programming with the remote participation available as provided on our agenda. Is there anyone here recording tonight's meeting? Nobody being said? I hereby call the meeting to order at 7:01. Members in attendance are, roll call,
Mike Greco.
Joe Fitzpatrick.
Mark Mudgem did call out. He's not able to make it due to work stuff. And Katie Grace, I haven't heard from her.
Okay. So Mark will be excused, Katie Grace unexcused. All right, our first item on the agenda. There's no mail.
Yep.
And there's no meeting, so we'll go right to request for a certificate of compliance for DEP number 143-0661. Paul Machichon? Macaria, 75 Old Farm Road, map 237, lot 25.
I can take notes. You can take it.
Okay. It looks like they want to close out the old notice of intent and open up a new one.
That's correct.
Okay, we have a letter here from Paul. I don't know who Paul is. Paul, the applicant?
Hold on. Let me bring this up.
Yep, Paul is the applicant, okay. For a quick narrative, to close out the old notice of intent, the previous owner had filed for the notice of intent and then sold the lot as a buildable lot with the conservation approval, which makes it more desirable. A buildable lot is typically more desirable to a buyer if there's a conservation approval on the lot. The current owner did not do any work, decided to sell the lot as is. Previous approval of the notice of intent expired, hence the reason we are currently undertaking the same process for a conservation approval. Please let me know if this is sufficient to close it out. We have to vote on that to close it? Where it's expired?
It's expired, and I can confirm that the work never began.
But I'm saying we don't have to vote on anything, right? on that?
Yeah, you do. You have to vote on it, either approve it or deny it. I would approve it as what was called an invalid order of conditions, which means the work never began.
Okay.
And that way it unclouds the deed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything from the applicant on it?
Nope.
No. Anybody from the floor? Is anybody on Zoom? No. Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion for invalid work order conditions.
We get a second?
Second.
We have a motion to close out the invalid order of conditions. No work's been done. Roll call vote.
Mike Greco, aye.
Joe Fitzpatrick, aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's going. Now we're going to open a new one. Okay, here's a public notice pertaining to Mass General Law 131, Section 40, Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act. Town of Douglas Conservation will hold a public hearing on March 4th at 7 o'clock for notice of intent filed by Paul.
Macaria.
What is it?
Paul Macaria.
Macaria, for the property located at 175 Old Farm Road, Douglas, for work being done pursuant to the Town of Douglas Wetlands Bylaw and Wetlands Protection Act 131, Section 40. The proposed work involves the construction of a single-family house with its associated septic system, driveway, and site grading. Public participation is available by attending the meeting at the Town of Douglas Municipal Center located at 29 Depot Street, Douglas, Mass., or pursuant to the Governor's March 29, 2023 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A, Section 18. The public may participate in this meeting by remote participation. A website for the meeting will be provided by the conservation agent posted on the town's website, www.douglas-ma.gov, at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. Copies of the plans may be examined electronically by contacting Conservation Commission at 508-476-4000, extension 257. And that was February 17th, 2024. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Raouf Makaris with Alpha Omega Engineering. I'm the design engineer for the project, and I have Paul Makari as a client behind me. This project, that site had an approval before, the one you just closed, for that house right there and the septic and all the grading associated with it. My client is buying the property and he's trying to build a house, not the same size, much smaller house than what was approved before.
Get this up on screen.
Yep, just give me one moment.
Hold on a minute, Paul.
Okay, so we're in.
This is the revised one?
That is the revised one,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So here is side by side what was approved before.
Yeah.
That's house size and the septic, and that's what's approved, what's we proposing, much smaller house, much smaller septic. The only difference is that the wetland used to be only to the property line here, but we found more wetland in this area, and we flagged that. And Brandon walked the site today, and he found he moved one of the flags a little bit farther, but it didn't affect much on the project. Other than that, all the work is outside the 50-foot buffer except a small corner of the house. And we came a few weeks ago to talk about that before we submit the plan. So this is what we have right now. The septic is outside the 50-foot buffer and the reserve. We have the well right there. No work basically in the 25-foot no disturb area except the well area only, which is temporary alteration. Other than that, it's much smaller house, much farther away from the wetland, as you can see.
Okay.
Over there. And start sharing those. And what you can do is you can start just right here. Then you can just scroll through them like one every 5 seconds or so.
So the wells, oh, I see it on now.
Yeah.
Okay, I see it down.
It's almost the same location as the old well, the approved well location.
Okay. That's still not in the 25 foot.
The well, it's
Close, but
yeah,
it's close.
but that's
follow
only
the line
that
down,
is only temporary disturbance. Just we
Yeah, you
drill the
kinda-
well and never touch it again.
Kind of circle around and it comes out.
That's for the well pit itself
Yeah.
during the construction. Yes.
Okay.
And Brandon, he walked the site today. He was the one flagged was moved about 10 feet north, and we were able to adjust that in the revised plan.
Okay. Brandon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you look up at the screen, you'll see a general overview of what the site looks like. So it goes downhill from the road. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the grade change, because there's a, in order to make the road level in that area, they had to build it up. There's one wetland with a finger that comes up near the road. That's the area that I had a disagreement on where the wetland boundary should be. It wasn't a big one, but flag 1-2 which is near the,
Closer to the street.
yeah, it's near the southeast corner of the site.
Yep.
I thought I was too far back, and I had to move it up 10 feet, and apparently it didn't do too much in regards to the 50-foot setback to the septic system. The performance standard for new construction of septic systems, and specifically the leach fields, is that the leach field has to be a minimum of 50 feet away from the resource area, okay? They're cutting it really close, so I made special care to look at flags 1-2 and 1-3, and I didn't agree with 1-2. I moved it up, and apparently it didn't make that much of a difference as far as the setback to the leach field. There is some septic sand around the perimeter of the actual infiltration chambers. So I was asking Mr. Mancarius if that counts as part of the leach field. So I would like to hear the answer from Mr. Mancarius.
That's not part of the leach field. The leach field only for the system, stones and pipes only, but the over-dig area, which is the septic sand, it does not count.
So that's his testimony. And I will say that this public hearing cannot be closed tonight, even if you want to, because DEP has not issued a file number yet. So this is going to go to at least one more meeting. So that's testimony from Mr. Mancarius about the sand around the leaching field. Other than that, I thought that the wetland flags were accurate, and the plan is depicted as being accurate. There's a wetland on the west side, so looking at the plan on the left side where you have the grades gradually go down to the wetland, there's a little bit of a drainage way in that area. It's extremely stony. The area where the house is proposed looks like it has a lot of historic fill material from I'm going to guess that it's from the construction of the road. It's an area where they put a lot of, waste and stone and dirt that they weren't using for construction of the road or the stormwater system. Trees have started to grow up in it. They're mostly birches and cottonwoods. Yeah.
Okay. Would you be opposed to putting something where this little finger is, this small, where flag 1-3 is, 1-2? Putting some kind of a fence there so that they don't get into that 25-foot zone? A split rail fence like we did on some other
Sure,
projects in
we
town.
can do that, yeah, if you want.
So that it's flagged and they know that in the future that,
Sure, yeah.
okay, preserve it.
So at the limit of work, Mr. Chairman? Because it doesn't all go right to the 25-foot. Some of it's farther away from that.
Yes.
Right, I was mainly concerned with the 20, well,
1-1, 1-2, 1-3,
yeah,
Sure.
that 2 and 3 is where,
Yeah.
have something there so they don't go into the wetlands.
like wetland marking or fence.
Just put a split rail fence across there, that's all, just so that
Yeah, that's fine. We
they
can-
would know that that's the edge of the wetlands,
Sure.
not to go into it.
No problem.
Okay. Board, you have anything, Jim? Mike? No? Is there anything from the audience? Yes, could you come up and state your name, please?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm Rebecca Kloss, and I'm in a butter. My property is on
I got a map here.
this side.
Okay.
So the septic's
Is there an
leach
address?
field is near 81 Old Farm.
Thank you.
So one thing that's not mentioned on his plans at all that I think is kind of concerning is that there's federally classified wetlands on this site. I'm not a wetlands expert, but I know that this green area is a PF0 IE Palestrine permanently flooded stream, and that the river shown here is an R4 SBC riverine. What the setbacks are for these, I don't know. I would venture to guess that it's more like a 100-foot buffer than 50. So that's my first issue, and that's a huge issue. The other issue I have with this is the house is inside the 50-foot buffer zone. This isn't allowed. It's not allowed by the bylaws. And this is the board that is supposed to uphold the bylaws. The Conservation Committee is also responsible for reviewing plans to make sure that they're in compliance with Title V in Massachusetts. And that is found in 310 of CMR 10.03, Section 3. So it's your job to make sure that whatever's proposed complies with Title V, which it also doesn't. The new well that's being proposed is within the 25-foot from a federally classified wetland. 25 feet is the minimum set by the state of Massachusetts for Title V, but what the classification is for the setback for a federally regulated wetland to a well, I don't know. I would venture to guess it's more than 25 feet. Also, the new well is close to the Shays, already existing home, and it's close to their leach field. You can't put a new well within 100 feet of a leach field, but I believe that it is. I've looked at the aerial. I'm an architect, so I love measuring stuff. The new septic leach field is also less than 50 feet from the wetlands. That's not allowed in Title V in Massachusetts either. And again, this might be federally classified, so it could be more. And I also question the distance of this new leach field from the street. It looks extremely close to the street as well. There's setbacks for that as well. It's very difficult. The plans that he submitted are they only show a portion of it, and it's extremely tiny. It's very difficult to try to figure out how far that leach field is from the road, but it's not very far. Also, my well isn't really shown on this plan. There's just a line here saying to well 135 feet, but I have never been notified that a surveyor was coming onto my property to measure anything as an abutter, so I don't see how they could have located that accurately to determine the distance. I also haven't seen anybody, and my cameras haven't picked up anybody, which they would have. So yes, I question all these things. Also, wells have to be 50 feet from a septic tank and 100 feet from the leach field, and yeah, none of these things can, both the septic, leach field, and the home cannot be in the 50-foot buffer zone, and this proposal, both of them are. So it doesn't qualify as far as our conservation bylaws, and it also doesn't qualify because of the Title V issues with the plan. That's, I think, all I have to say. I had a $3,000 well repair when a home was built across the street. My neighbor he's present as well. And then his neighbor next door, his septic system, which was approved by the Board of Health in Douglas, failed. And yeah, I wound up having a $3,000 well repair, and I saw the well repairman at several homes right in the adjacent area when new homes went online. So that's my input. I don't see how you can approve something that doesn't comply with both our wetland bylaws and Title V.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Klaus makes some good points. I'll address the federal wetland part of it first, though. Believe it or not, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has much higher standards for wetlands protection than the feds do. There is no buffer zone from what we call federally regulated wetlands. They only care about the wetland itself, so the swamp part of it. The area around it, they don't care. So this project is not in the wetland, so the feds aren't even interested. They deal with like large-scale wetland fill, dredging of like the Potomac River kind of thing. However, it is true that the northwest corner of the house gets clipped in the 50-foot buffer zone. It's a very small amount, but it is technically within the 50-foot buffer zone. And the well is right up to the edge of the wetland in the northern part of the lot. See right up there, it gets thin. So, I've been working for the commission since August, and we've had some changes with membership, and the chair left, so I never got a previous opinion on whether or not a well is considered a structure or has been considered a structure in the past.
It's a permitted item, so yeah, it's regulated.
May I speak? We came about maybe a month ago or 6 weeks ago with this plan, and we showed that the house will be about 47 feet away before this commission. And we got your opinion that if we're gonna get like a little bit closer, but we have a much smaller house than the one what was approved, and the commission was open for that idea, because it's only a very small corner of the house will be in that buffer. Regarding the well can be as close as we want to the wetland. I mean, we have to be minimum 10 feet away from lot line, 100 feet from any existing or proposed septic. Same thing for our septic. And regarding the Board of Health requirement, there is a professional Board of Health agent who reviewed the plan, and he has no issue with the plan. We have her well and all other wells and septics within the area. We either get the record for as-built, or we can shoot something that's a well that's outside their property. We can shoot it prismless with a machine, so we don't have to be on somebody else's property to locate it. And it's very accurate.
Mr. Chairman, may I? All right, so regardless of whether you think the well is a structure or not, there's still the 25-foot no-touch zone, and the well, you're going to have to clear all around it. In fact, you have proposed grades right up there, so to me, it looks like there's going to be quite a bit of clearing of land that's going to be within 25 feet in order to get the well in. And you usually have to clear out a wide path and also potentially have temporary grading so that the well truck can get in there and get itself level.
Yes.
So can you explain some of that, Raul?
Sure, yes. We came before the previous commission, and we showed what was approved before, and there was work all the way to the edge of the wetland. And we were able to make it a little bit smaller work, and we get a little bit farther from the wetland. And the commission basically said, because this was approved before, it says we can entertain reapproving the project because we're doing a much smaller house, much smaller septic, and the whole work is much less than disturbance than what was approved before.
So this would require, in my opinion, a variance from the regulation standards. Now, you suppose you could do it, but it's up to you whether or not you want to. Taking all these mitigative factors into consideration.
And for the well, it's just like temporary disturbance, and then we'll let everything grow back to what it was before. Because we don't need to access the well on a daily basis. So we can propose replanting the area if the commission would like.
So if you pull that house forward towards the road,
Well, we stuck with the setback line, the building setback, the front setback,
okay,
and that's
you're
why.
right at the setback for the road.
Yes. And it's 47.5 feet away from the wetland. And that's a very tiny corner.
At this point, it's up to you. How comfortable are you with it?
Do you know how close the other systems are to the well?
They are much farther than what is required. The required is 100 feet. We're supposed to show anything that was in 100 feet, but we are outside the 100-foot buffer. We did get the records for these houses, septics and plans, and we did locate wherever we need to locate. And those plans are stamped and already reviewed by the Board of Health and approved.
This gentleman here first. Yep.
Good evening.
evening.
My name's Scott Shea. I'm also in a butter at 71 Old Farm Road, the other side than Miss Kloss.
You're down there.
Excuse me?
You're down there.
Yeah, I'm on the top of this map. I want to start by saying, when I built this house, I bought it as a vacant lot from the same family, the Marquezes, that Mr. Marquera, if I pronounce that, I apologize if I mispronounce that, is purchasing it from the Marquezes. I took a look at the GIS and saw that there are a bunch of vacant lots in the area. I knew that this community was going to be developed. So I eventually expected that a house was going to be built here. I have no problem with the fact that they are trying to build a house. Neighbors, I get it. I live in a cul-de-sac-ish community. They're going to be developed. Great. What I do have a problem with, that I wanted to alert you guys to, and I'm not sure if you guys can help with this or not, but there is a severe water issue in this neighborhood. Underground water, not wetlands water.
Just like for wells.
Wells. There is a major problem in this end of Woodland Road and Old Farm Road when it comes to drinking water supply. When I purchased this house, my lot, again, 71, the one on the top side of this map, I reached out to Darling Well Company, which is a local well drilling company in the community, asking for a quote on how much this was going to be, and he laughed at me when he said Old Farm Road down that end. He's like, it's going to be tough. After many days of drilling and $14,000 to drill the well 7 years ago and a frack, I barely passed the requirements in order to make a 4-bedroom house, about 3,200 square foot, 4-bedroom, two and a half bath house. Fast forward a couple years, more houses began to be punched in the community. One of the neighbors here, Dustin's, I believe. Yes. When their house went in, no fault of yours, sir, I know you didn't build it, but when his house got punched in by the Nealon organization, it was an $8,000 bill, similar to Ms. Kloss. She had a $3,000 bill. I had to go ahead and get mine zone fracked. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what a zone frack is, but it's a much more invasive technique than a regular frack, and that was an $8,000 bill. Since then, more issues have arisen as more properties began to be punched in, and now I'm into my well for $29,000. It was supposed to be, 7 years ago, a $6,000 drill for it's about 250 feet. Now I'm into it for $29,000. I'm at 680 feet. I've had a frack. I've had a zone frack. If you look around the community, the Concom secretary gave me a map of the local community. Well, she had one present. I don't see one here. But if you look around the community, my house has been zone fracked. Just north of me, I believe it's 69 Old Farm Road, has been zone fracked. The one across the street, Ray, the guy who owns the gas station with the ice cream machine, the ice cream shop, Ray used to live there. I talked to Ray himself. He zone fracked his because he had water issues. When he built his 3-car detached, the people to my left complained that his foundation for his 3-car detached screwed up the water supply. So he paid to have theirs zone fracked. Across the street, next door to Ray, is the Hadley residence, who's also here present tonight. His has been zone fracked. Next door to them is the Patels. They're on the corner of Woodland and Old Farm Road. They have 3 drilled wells. 3 drilled wells, which was $6,000 to do one 7 years ago. I talked to Dave Darling, who I asked to be here tonight. I was going to hire him to come and speak to the water issues of what's going on in that neighborhood. Unfortunately, he's in Fort Myers for a funeral, but he said that now today's prices are $12,000 to start for a 250-foot dug well, drilled well, excuse me. So they have 3 of those. On Woodland, we have that massive house that's beautiful. I've been told they have water issues. Across the street, there's another massive, beautiful blue house. They also have 3 wells. Moving down, we have, I know the Dustins have run out. I know the Dagnalds have had issues. He's here present. Next door to them, the newest house that's been awarded a CO in the community is the Roy residence. They actually have 1,000 gallons of storage in their basement because the well does not produce enough water. When I try to explain this to my wife, I take a pint glass, like a regular 16-ounce pint glass, and I fill it with water, and I take a straw, a Ready to Go Flex straw, and I put that straw in the cup and I say, if I drink from it, sir, if you drink from it, ma'am, if you drink from it, sir, if you drink from it, that cup's going to continue to drain out a lot faster. Now take those flexi straws out and put the boba tea or milkshake straws in, those really thick straws in. That's after we zone frack, which we've all done. We drink out of those straws, that cup's going to drain even a lot faster. I'm just concerned about my investment, my family, the safety of my family, what we have for water supply in the community. I know every house brings in more tax revenue to the town, and ultimately that's kind of one of the issues that we think about when we're approving plans and approving houses to be built, is we're thinking about the tax revenue that's going to come in. I pay $10,000 a year in taxes. My taxes are $22.46 a quarter, so $16 shy of $10,000 a year. The engineer, sorry sir, I forgot your name, he said this is a much smaller house than what was pre-approved in the past. I have the old plans for that. It was about 3,200. This is about 2,700 if you do the math. Sure, it's smaller. If it's a two-story, it's 2,700. It's still a house with a family in it that's going to be utilizing water. And again, I'm not against the people moving in, but I'm against the town willingly approving water issues for a community. You get that $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 in tax revenue coming in, but what happens in the future when all of our houses go dry? Now you lose all of that tax revenue for 8, 9 houses, $80,000, $90,000 if each one's about 10, just to get 8,000 in. That's the first point I wanted to make. 29,000 into my well. We talked about who was fracked. The Patels have 3 wells, the Big Blue House with 3 wells. I've witnessed well company at Miss Claus's house, which she referenced, a $3,000 repair. I've mentioned the run out. I know the engineers. I was going to speak on the fact that no one's ever located my septic to see how close it actually is to their well. I know the engineer spoke to a prism and pulling the as-built. I just want to get it on record. I don't know if there's minutes to this or if this recording counts as minutes.
It does.
But what's the town going to do if we run out of water? And I know your guys' job is wetlands and the Conservation Commission, like taking care of that. But I would ask, like, if you guys were in this position, that there's another straw going into that cup, another drinking straw.
I might be able to help you out that, because at least to clarify what jurisdiction is, or what the public interests are that the commission is interested in here. And among the 8 public interests that the commission is concerned with here with wetlands is public and private drinking water supply.
Okay,
So
great.
that includes people's wells.
Thank you for clarifying that, sir. That
Yep.
makes me feel a lot better that I know I'm bringing this up at the right venue. I appreciate that. So yeah, if this was your guys' community where you lived in, I would ask what each of you would think when you know that I have actually ran out of water 7 times after one of those houses got punched in. That's to the point, like, we had to outsource our laundry. It was great because my mother-in-law folded all my laundry, but I had to outsource my laundry. We had to pick and choose when we could shower. For a family of 4, I had an infant in the house. We had to make sure I had water prepared to go ahead and make my child's formula. Like, these are things that I shouldn't have to worry about when I'm paying $10,000 a year in taxes to the town. And I know that this is a small town. I bought here on purpose because I like that. So I'll pay the expensive taxes to have that community that I have and have the liberties that I have, being in that dead-end type cul-de-sac community. But we're at risk of losing our investment, and then our houses become null. And the old agent, I believe his name was Steve, is that who you replaced? Sir?
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, Steve. So we're talking with him. If I needed to get another well put in my land, I'm going to have to come to the same commission and ask for variances or allow whatever the phrase is to breach the 50-foot buffer, to get a well truck in there, to get Darling or Richardson in there to punch in another well. I'm told to start that DEP process from Steve was about a 2-year process and $10,000 before I even get a drill bit in the ground. So I'm already $29,000 into a well, and now I'm going to potentially have to get $10,000 just to get maybe approved, maybe the variance is done, to get a well truck in there, to start with a $14,000 drill to get me 250 feet deep. I'm at 680. I think, John, you said is at 800. Like, it's deep. There's no water down there. Sorry, as I look at my notes. So about a 2-year approval and $10,000. And then again, another 14 to punch it in. Is the town going to bring in water? I think that your public water supply takes the corner at the blinking light and shoots up towards Webster. I think that's the termination point. I don't think it comes down 96. I don't know if anyone knows that off the top of their head, but I think it turns the corner and heads up towards Webster. Are you guys going to bring water down? Right, and then how much is that going to cost the town? And we have ledge. I know I had to drill through ledge to get my foundation in. They're likely going to have to drill through ledge to get their foundation in. There's ledge coming through the asphalt on my street. Like, we're going to have to drill through all that.
Old Farm Road is up on Dickie Downs' old farm, right?
I have no idea who owned it before me, sir.
Yeah, it's a Downs.
It's the first right off of 96.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Okay. There's just no water back there. So the bridge, a couple of things about this before I close. There's a bridge here. It's not here. So I don't know where that is versus the bridge. The house is inside 50. We talked about that. That's cut and dry. It's inside 50. Much smaller is still small. Is still inside 50. Whether it's bigger or smaller, I don't care. It's inside 50. That breaks the rules. The septic is inside 50. That buffer line cuts right that corner. I know it cuts it. It just clips it, but it's inside 50. It breaks the rules. The well is 15.7 feet away. I don't know if you guys have ever drilled a well, but I was there every day. I was a firefighter in Woonsocket when I built my house, so I worked 24-hour shifts, 5 days off a week. So I would go to the site, and I was there banging nails, there late at night painting and hanging molding and crown, et cetera. But I was there every day from the start of this process, including drilling the well, which took a lot of days. 15 feet behind the well is going to get encroached. You guys have just a piece of wattle here, a straw wattle. That is going to get run over by the drilling, especially because I know mine's at 680 feet. That is going to get overrun immediately within the first 100 feet, and that material will encroach the wetlands well beyond the 15 feet. Even if you put one of those black, I forget the word, the
Silt
black-
fence.
A silt fence. That's what you guys made me put behind my drilling well. Overrun with the material because we were expecting a 250-foot well. It was 680 feet of material that had to get removed. So that silt fence got overrun. Luckily, my well was well beyond, far enough away from the wetlands that it wasn't an issue, and I had my own tractor there that I moved the stuff that was, the remnants that was drilled out. This is going to get encroached. The bridge that's there, I started to talk about it. You have to go around that. I walk my dog back there all the time. There's a walking path there. It leads back to the trunk. If you guys haven't seen that, it's going to be tough to get a well rig back there. It's going to be really tough. You see the elevation changes here. I know you spoke about that, sir. It's going to be really tough to get a well rig back there. The engineer spoke about some things moving. If things did actually move, those plans should be presented before the commission votes on this.
Well, they're not going to vote on it tonight, are they?
I know you did
Yeah.
allude to that, but I'm just saying, like, we're talking about this now, and the stuff moved, sounds like today, or, sir, you moved flag 1-2. I don't know if that's represented well on this.
The new one, the one that's up on the screen is, the
Okay.
one that you have is probably an older version.
Okay. Regardless, those things still encroach 50, and the well is well within, no pun intended, but it's well within the 25 feet. It's 15.7. That is going to get encroached even with the silt fence. So I would just ask this commission who represents the community, again, this is nothing against the individual that wants to build. I expected houses to be built, but there is a risk of a lot of families being negatively affected. And I want to just let the town know that this very well could happen. And then what? Are we just going to be without water for 2 years? Is the town going to support us? Is the town going to bring water in? Right, one more drinking straw to that cup. Eventually, one more drinking straw is going to be too many drinking straws. And that's really all I wanted to say. So if you could please just think about us down here and not just the wetlands when you guys decide to vote on this, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Some things I want to bring up for clarity for the commission so you can make an educated decision here. Going through the regulations regarding the well, and in order to answer this question, I have a question for Mr. Makarios.
Yes.
Does a well require a building permit?
No,
Okay, so section 10...
just the Board of Health.
Just the Board of Health.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a permit.
Not a building
permit.
not a building permit, it's a Board of Health permit.
Right, so there's a difference between a Board of Health permit and then a building permit from the building department.
Anything permitted. It could be a wall, it could be a building.
Excuse me.
It could be-
Can we just have
Yeah.
one at a time in, and I'll give everybody a chance to talk?
So in section 10.3, the bylaw reads, when taking these setbacks into consideration, building means anything requiring a building permit or other structure, including but not limited to retention or detention ponds, culverts, or wing walls. So I guess there's an opportunity to call a well, something that falls under the definition of building because it reads including but not limited to. So I suppose that's up for interpretation. And Table 1 of the wetland regulations, which you do have right here, page 12, and it says very clearly that residential activity, including residential lots and multifamily residential development, the limit of work or disturbance must be 25 feet away, and the limit of building 50 feet. But then you go back to the preface of this section. It reads that if you're within that area, the applicant must maintain a strip of continuous undisturbed vegetated cover unless the applicant can demonstrate to the commission that the area or part of it may be disturbed without harm to the values protected by the town bylaw. So the burden of proof is on the applicant. So that's Mr. Mancarius to prove that although the building is going to be within 50 feet, the well's going to be within the 50 feet, and he's going to be clearing and grading within 25 feet in order to put in the well, it's up to him to convince the commission that what they're doing is not going to adversely impact the wetland. So it's on you, Ralph.
Sure. Yeah, so basically the well, as I said, is not a structure. It only requires Board of Health approval. Whenever there's a well regulation, there's nothing that requires for a well to have a building permit. It's part of the board.
Yeah, but
Yes.
the other part that you haven't realized, you can't get a building permit without a well.
No, you can get a well permit without a building.
You can get a well permit.
Yes.
I'm saying
Yeah,
building
you
permit.
You can.
Can't get it
We
without a
did it.
well.
I mean, it's
It's a 600-foot deep structure. How is it not, it's a
So-
built item?
So what, Ralph, what office
Board of Health.
you get the well permit from the Board of Health?
Only the Board of Health.
The Board of Health issues all wells.
That's, I just want to get it on
Yes.
the record.
Yeah, I have another comment. This,
Can I?
Rebecca Kloss, this issue goes back years. This Conservation Committee, this I brought up 6, 7 years ago when his house was being built. They've been misinterpreting that for years, and I mentioned it, and everyone on the board, it was discussed, it went back to the building department and the chief engineer of the town, and it has already been breached going back years when this whole committee was all different people. Anything requiring a permit, they were misinterpreting it. They were completely ignoring the fact that wells and things like retaining walls that had already been built in this whole neighborhood, they didn't consider those things and allowed them to be built within the setbacks. If you're thinking that it's not disturbing anything, you can come look at what they're building on the other side of me right now. They're filling in the entire site with sand. They're driving repeatedly with excavators over, right up to the edge, and the whole site is being filled in with sand. But this has already been breached with this same committee. It's like amnesia, going over the same thing again and again. Anything that requires, I'm an architect, anything that requires a building permit falls under your jurisdiction. It's a well, it's a septic system, it's a leach field, it's a retaining wall, it's even a shed that's bigger than the required size. It's anything and everything. The other issue I forgot to mention before is that they're saying that, like, my well is, like, it's not shown on this, but it's this direction. But this is all wetlands. And then his leach field would be here. But when it rains a lot, all this stuff swells, and so will the leach field. So there will be no like dry land between my well that's somewhere over here and their leach field. It's wetlands. So that's, in my mind, it's not the same as having dry land in between.
Let me clarify. I mean, septic system has to meet a Title V requirement by the state code, and it has to meet the 50 foot from the wetlands, 10 feet from our property line, 20 feet from a house, 100 feet from wells, and it has to be 4 feet above existing high water table. The soil testing was done, was approved witnessed by the Board of Health. The design was done according to Title V and approved by the Board of Health. So everything here is done and reviewed by the professionals and approved by them.
So I think I can give you a bit of a summary of the points to think on. You have a house that's within the 50-foot no building setback.
Right.
So you have to think about whether or not that's going to cause adverse impact, because the section on that says that if you're with a building within 50 feet, you just automatically presume that it's going to cause an impact to the wetland. And if you're clearing within 25 feet, you're supposed to presume that there's going to be impact to the wetland unless the applicant can convince you that it won't. And then you'll pretty much allowing a variance to do
What
that.
section is that?
Section 10. 10.1.1, 10.2, 10.3. 10.3 is the one that really gets into it, though. And then we have the drinking water well issue, which is something that I was not aware of how bad the well yield was in this area. But when it comes to that, you have to think about how the construction will impact the wetland, because wetlands are areas where the deep groundwater table is replenished. So that's where the water congregates and then eventually goes down deep into the granite and the bedrock, which is where everybody's getting their well water. And you have to think about how this project may or may not impact well yield. Not just well yield, not just quantity, but quality as well. But it sounds like here, from what I'm hearing from Mr. Shea, it's quantity, as in yield, that is the issue. So you have to ask yourself, will this project negatively affect yield with the wells that are already here? Not to mention the well that they're proposing. So those are the main points I think would be what I call the decision points.
Let me clarify something regarding the well. They cannot start any construction until they do the well, and they have to get the right flow.
No, I understand.
Yeah, so they cannot.
That's why I was correcting earlier. I'm a building commissioner in another town. So I understand you have to have a permit. Comes from the Board of Health to drill a well.
Exactly.
Understand it 100%. Title V, I've installed systems myself, well aware of how that works.
Okay, that's good.
How far back are you from the road right now?
For
The front of the house?
the house, it's just the setback. I think it's like 50 feet. We are right at the setback line. The dashed line is the setback line.
Mr. Shea had a question.
I guess I don't see it here.
It's
I don't see the setback line on it.
right in front of the house. This dashed line right there.
Okay, I see it.
It's curved.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we have like maybe a few inches to bring the house forward.
Well, either that or you go to the zoning to get a variance.
They won't allow it for new
The
construction.
GIS, show the aerial.
They won't allow it for,
They won't allow to encroach the setbacks for new construction. because there is no hardship. And I think that's why we came before the commission, like,
Now, who told you that it is no hardship?
because this is, I mean, usually you have to show a hardship. I mean, this is like, they're gonna say like, this is the setback. If we allow it for you, we're gonna allow it for everybody else for new construction.
Okay, but who told you that?
That's for experience for dealing with zoning board of
Okay.
appeals, but that's
I
how.
was on the zoning board here in town for a lot of years. So, I mean, I look at it with the wetlands, you definitely got a hardship there. Okay, because that's something you can't change. So that's why I was asking you who said it. I'm not on the board now, and I'm not going to speak for the board. But I would just, but it still doesn't relieve the well problem being that close.
In that area, how many other properties are there vacant lots?
I think this is the only one left.
There's no more vacant.
Can you?
I
speak into
haven't
the
seen
mic,
any other
Jim?
vacant lots.
Can't talk, I can't hear you.
Sorry. I just was curious to make sure that there was no other lots that were vacant or houses.
No, there are houses all around.
Okay.
Yeah, no, there's more, the cul-de-sac goes further beyond,
But around the proposed house, everything is built.
No, I know. but
The
like
street
we're talking about
continues.
The drinking water, you know.
Yeah.
The
for
drinking
supply, so
water-
I was just trying to think if there was more, what would be coming down the road, so.
yeah, the well repairman told me the entire neighborhood, he could see the water level going down and up, and my well was not connected, and he could see the water level going down and up, and my house wasn't connected. He knew by looking at it that the whole neighborhood is on the same water source. And no, there's a bunch of lots, the road continues past this site, and there's a bunch of vacant lots down there too.
Okay, just to clarify a little bit, if you're going to speak, can you just wait for the chair and then you get your name, because somebody's got to take notes out of this, and we'll try and make it as easy as we can for them to be able to follow through. Yes.
Scott Shea.
No, this guy, this gentleman here.
Oh, all right, I thought you pointed at me, I apologize.
That's right.
Sorry.
I'm Jonathan Degnault. I live at 64 Woodland. I am diagonally across from Rebecca, and I'm not here to debate building policy. I'm a hoisting engineer. I deal with this all day long at work. My primary concern for myself and my family and my neighbors, obviously, is going to be drinking water. We are the second lowest property on the street, where my house is actually, I believe, 17 feet below grade to my basement floor. And the house that they just built next to me is lower than that. Not significantly, but I'm willing to bet it's probably within 4 or 5 feet lower than that. And given that my well is 800 and 840, 880, and we have intermittent issues with running out of water. And doing the math and elevations, the bulk of the people on my street, because it's a hill, obviously the wells get deeper because they're higher on the hill. Everyone on the street that you talk to has big drinking water problems. They run out, they can't do laundry, can't run the dishwasher, they gotta take a shower every other day, and these are all issues that we all worry about being on wells. You know, growing up, I was always under the understanding you had a well, you had unlimited water, especially if you had an artesian. Well, at 800 feet, we run out of water. We don't wash our car, we don't wash the boat, we don't do any of that stuff. It's laundry, shower, that's it. And, you know, there's 3 adults in my house and an 8-year-old, and we don't abuse water. So from the standpoint of not just running out of water, is what the potential financial impact is going to be for myself and the people on Old Farm Road and Woodland Road. Because if we have to bring water in, what's that assessment going to cost us as residents? When we started out with wells that were functioning. And now we start punching all these houses in, knowing that we have a problem, and we create a problem. And where do we live? And what's that look like for the town? I mean, does the town even have the bonding capacity to run that far of a water main off of the main street through ledge, up and over and around? And I mean, I'm not trying to create panic and widespread hatred for building new homes in the town. I'm all about bringing tax base here, but like Scott, we purposely moved here for this type of living in this community, and we gladly pay our taxes to enjoy that lifestyle away from the city. But when there's a known problem, I mean, Richardson Wells did my well, and when I called to find out what my gallons per minute was because I wanted irrigation to have a nice lawn, they laughed at me. And in talking to them, every well on that end of town, not just our particular neighborhood, struggles and has a lot of problems. And our house basically barely passed to get a certificate of occupancy for a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house. And that was in a 100-year flood year. So if we had all that rain and my house barely passed then, what's going to happen when we have a drought year? I mean, I'm a firm believer in wetlands. I understand that it's recharging our wells over time, and we're getting all of this water supply this year, which is a great thing, but we're not going to overcome the existing issues overnight. If we run out of water, what's going to happen? How long is that going to take?
I have a
And what do we
question for you.
do with all the homes?
I get it.
Thank you. 2 years ago, we had a drought, and then last summer was extremely wet.
Very wet.
What was your well yield like in the last 2 years?
Honestly, it hasn't been terrible. I mean, we suffer from sediment issues, which is difficult to believe given that our well is so deep and our pump sits at 500 feet. But we have run out of water twice in the 2 years that we've lived here. It hasn't lasted for a prolonged period of time. It's hours. And we have sediment filtration. We have all kinds of filtration in the house that we are constantly having to change. But in speaking to my neighbors, most of my neighbors suffer far more than I do. I'm very fortunate. But I'm just, not everybody has, I know there was 3 other neighbors that wanted to be here, and the flu seems to be running through the elementary school like wildfire, so there's a lot of people
Appreciate it, Dean.
that are dying right now at home unnecessarily, but it's a topic. I mean, when the neighborhood gets together, it's not always thrills and spills. It's, hey, did you run out of water this week? And it's not like, we don't have irrigation. We don't have all the things that people with our caliber of homes and neighborhoods like ours have. We're living,
What did they hit water at it on your well? You know how many feet?
I don't know. My wellhead sits at 500.
Right. I was curious if they hit it.
I know that, I can give you the stat. Give me
You should
one
have
second.
reserve area, which
I do.
that controls.
I
it.
do. I have that. I have that, which raised concern for me because I had, based on the well casing size, I had 4 days of supply above the pump. We were supposed to have static water at 12 feet. And then the pump was sitting at 5 feet, and on a 6.5-inch casing, that's roughly 4 days
So
worth of...
they hit water at 12 feet and you're down 500?
No, the static water level in
Okay.
the casing was 12 feet. Right here, I'm sorry, I was off 100. The well's at 740, pump's sitting at 500
Okay.
with a 6-inch casing. That gives me 4 days worth of water.
All right.
So the fact that I ran out twice creates concern because the well wasn't replenishing itself.
I think we should definitely look into the well situation here on this and see if we can get something on what's going on up there.
Well, the issue with the well is how is the construction going to potentially impact the wetland and the wetland's ability to replenish the groundwater that supplies the private drinking wells. So that's the thought process here that the commission has to think about.
And like I said, I'm not trying to create doom and gloom. I'm all about people moving here and having a great life and enjoying what we all enjoy living here. But there's something going on, and it's not good.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, can I?
appreciate it.
When you're done,
Yes, sir.
wait a second.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Scott Shea, 71 Old Farm Road. Sir, appreciate your comment about the wetlands replenishing. I can tell you at 71 Old Farm Road, I have a massive area of wetlands. If you turn the wetlands on in that GIS, you will see it is right behind my house, that green shaded area.
So I have-
If you do enable that function or turn that layer on, my well is just outside of that green area.
71.
And I run out 7 times in 1 calendar year. So the idea that the wetlands replenishes the well, evidence that that doesn't work as we think it does. It's right. I ran out 7 times in 1 calendar year.
What year was
I mean,
that?
I don't have a sprinkler system. Right? I had 2 young kids, but I don't have a teenage daughter taking 45-minute showers. Right? Like we're not using it as well. So we don't have a pool.
So you're just one property to the north?
Yes, to the right of that, on the same side of the street.
Yeah, if you're looking in, you're on the right.
Yes. If you turn that wetlands layer on, you'll see the green shaded area
Yeah, right there.
show up. You might have to zoom in a bit for it to pop up.
Hit the plus on the DEP wetlands map. There we go, it just took a little while.
That green area encroaches into, obviously you can see into my, the wetlands go further than that. That's not exactly, if you look at my site plan, the wetlands go a lot further than that. There's a stream that runs through and even goes into 69 Old Farm, so that green shaded area isn't necessarily accurate. However, my point still stands that the wetlands being so close to my well, it doesn't replenish it.
What year was it that you lost water 7 times?
Years ago, 5 years ago. What was your house built?
Finished 4 years ago.
It was finished 4 years ago. Once his house was getting punched in.
So right around COVID, 2020. That sound about right?
Probably 19.
19?
Yeah.
2019, we're going with 2019? Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anything else on the floor? Anything from anybody on Zoom?
You do have a comment on Zoom. I don't know if the person that wrote it wants to read it out, but, or if anyone else wants to read it out, but there is a comment up there.
Okay, so it's
The comment up there is, I don't know who, I can't see who it's from. John Gordon. I added to the list, John Gordon, 49 Woodland. We just built into this street last year, 30,000 frac, 700 feet for 1 gallon per minute. Water supply here is stressed, to say the least. Thank you.
Yes, I have a question to them. I mean, did they report that to the Board of Health or no, these issues? I'm just wondering if the neighbors
That's
reported that issue to the Board
again,
of Health.
we're not going to be voting on this or anything tonight. That's a
Yeah.
couple of things I want to check with
Yeah.
Board of Health, what's going on up there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the neighbors who had issues with their wells reported these issues to the Board of Health or no?
Oh. That's it for anybody on there? Is there anything else on this before we?
Yeah, hello, may I speak?
State your name, please.
Hi, my name is John Gordon. I'm at 49 Woodland. I just built and we finished and took occupancy this past summer. And I'm just, wanted to say my appreciation to my fellow neighbors for bringing this issue up. I mean, I beat drilled, I think, about 690 feet and I'm getting like 1 gallon per minute. So it's pretty precious water here, and, you know, I understand, I get it, you're on a limited aquifer here underneath of us, and I just want to, you know, show my appreciation to my neighbors for bringing this up, because we haven't run out of water. I ran out once actually in July. That's because I tried to water my lawn. I'll never do that again. I got rain barrels for that now. That's kind of what we were hoping for. We were hoping to be able to take showers and do laundry on the same day. So far, we're okay, but water's pretty precious here. So I just wanted to say, you know, say my appreciation that my neighbors are bringing this matter to light. But I did have a question, I guess, is God forbid if this does happen and we end up overbuilding and we start stressing it, is there a way to bring water in off South Street someday if we had to do that? No.
That's not.
That's not this commission's say how that works. That would be something through the DPW and them guys.
But, you know, I know that would be a ridiculously expensive venture. If we had to having to do that, I just figured it could be in the cards 5-10 years from now. All I really wanted to just, you know, express, add me to the list of people who are having, you know, who are afraid of having water issues in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom? Okay. I'd like to get some other information on this before we,
What information would you like to get, Mr. Chairman?
the wells, I want to see what the Board of Health has on there for the wells and just what the outputs were and so forth. I know there's a minimum on a well, gallons per minute before it's not acceptable. I'd like to see if he's getting 1 gallon a minute.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a yield test that would have passed.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
So that's, I just want to see what the area is. The other thing is I'd like to,
Well, it's 1 gallon per minute, but it's a very deep well. I mean, I've got over 1,400 gallons in that well, so that's probably where they allowed it. Pounds.
okay. And then I'd like to get zoning's input as far as if they had to move it forward, if it did go through. The other problem I got is that well is, that's like really close.
Zoning?
Zoning regarding the house, moving the house forward.
If they could get that out of there, and the septic could get moved a little bit to get that out of there. But the well is,
I will talk to my client, see what we can do about the house, if we can do some work
so,
on the house.
like I said, I'm just trying to put issues that are coming up,
Sure.
try to
Right.
relax them. It's not that I'm saying it's going to happen or it's not going to happen,
Right.
just trying to,
So to further clarify the bylaw regulations, the 25 feet and 50-foot setbacks for residential, those are the minimums. The commission has the prerogative and the option to require setbacks that go all the way to the limits of your jurisdiction. So if you think that the situation calls for it, you can require setbacks as far as 100 feet. At the same time, you can allow variances to go closer. It's all case by case.
right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if we can explore that and see, that may be an option.
Well, requiring the applicant to look into getting.
No, I'm going to talk.
relief.
I'm going to talk to the zoning and see
Yeah.
on that. I don't want the applicant to have to do it. I'm just going to inquire on my own.
Oh, if it's even possible?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, just if you keep in mind that we cannot get any closer because also of the septic system, we have to be minimum 20 feet away from the septic, the foundation wall. So the septic is to the property line has to be minimum 10 feet. Septic to the foundation wall is 20 feet. So what you see here is just, I only have 2 feet to play with. The foundation is 22 feet away from the septic system. The septic is 10 feet away from the house, the property line.
Right, but it looks like that back corner is like 2.5 feet, according to your dimensions there.
Yeah, so
If
that's
you took 2 feet out, you're at 49.5 feet. You're talking a half a foot.
Yeah.
Okay. there's nothing else, I want to continue this.
Sure.
What's the next meeting date we got on this?
March 18th.
March 18th?
Yes.
I get a motion to
Yeah, I'll make a
continue?
motion to continue this till March 18th.
We have a second?
Mike? Mike? Yep.
We have a motion and seconded by Mike to continue this here until March 18th.
Thank you.
Did you do the
Roll
roll
call
call?
vote.
Yep.
Jim Farr, aye.
Mike Griffin, aye.
Joe Fitzpatrick, aye.
Tanya. We have 31 North Street, Mr. Chairman, with Tanya Marcano, an update.
Yep.
So basically, I'm not here to make excuses. My name is Tanya Marcano. I was supposed to file some paperwork, but unfortunately, I ended up without a car for 3 months. My son had to leave to Iraq, and a lot of things just kind of happened. But I was going to do it today, but we were short-staffed. I took the day off tomorrow to actually file, do everything I had to do.
Okay, so you want to continue this discussion until March 18th?
So you did file today?
No,
He's gonna
we
file
were
tomorrow.
short-staffed today. I had emailed you that I would do it today.
What are you doing today, though?
I'm going to do it tomorrow. I took the day off tomorrow
Okay, to,
to file the paperwork and do the newspaper ad and just to get the process going, basically.
so you're going to file the request for determination of actability, you're going to put all that together and submit it tomorrow?
Yes,
Okay,
I took the day off to do that.
okay. Well, if you have any questions or need clarification on anything, please contact.
Are you going to be here tomorrow?
No, I'll be,
Oh, okay.
you can catch me on my phone. We can even do I'd even be willing to do a Zoom call with you if you have that ability to help you.
Okay.
If you have if you don't, something you don't understand. So you-
Okay,
So you
I
can get the thing
appreciate
in.
it.
Yep.
Thank you. So March 18th. And tomorrow I'll be here. Am I all set?
Would you like to put it on the 318 agenda?
That's what I said, yeah, let's move it to the 318.
Okay. I'll let Jen
Does
know.
that give them enough time for advertising and everything?
Maybe we should, the last time I did it,
Well, it can go on as an update at a minimum. If she gets everything in on time to have a public meeting on it, public hearing on it, that's great. Otherwise, I think it would be, still have value to put it on as a quick update.
Okay. All right,
Okay, you're all set.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
okay, old business, we have public hearing continuation, a notice of resource delineation from Otwell Investment Group LLC, 3338 Caswell Court. That's been requested to be continued per the applicant. Next, we have notice of intent for Deer Crossing Development LLC, Woodland Road. That's also been requested to be continued per the applicant. Notice of intent, public hearing for Tim and Beth Longan, 278 Northwest Main Street for a single-family home, and they've requested to continue per the applicant. So we'll move those all to the 18th.
And now we're into enforcement.
Okay, all those will go out to 18th.
Those are going on the 18th, yes.
Okay. Now, update, please, on the Oak Street solar project.
Pat Mahan, Jay Bates and Son.
And
Red line, I don't know if your brother did.
Yeah, right. Okay.
yeah, we have one.
Okay.
Jason Smith, Blue Wave. We also have a few individuals with us on Zoom. We have Greg Morehouse from Mill Creek Renewables and Steve LaRosa from Weston Sampson. I think one of the things that we wanted to probably start with is that we just handed out an update of some of the activities that were requested for us to report on. We also have delivered the sequencing narrative that was requested for us and the as-built to date. There's one other as-built performed today that we'll email over and get a hard copy to you as well, an updated one. We also have given you, Chair, the sole printed copy of the final PFAS report.
Yep.
And so if we might, I know everybody's been waiting for the new order, so could we quickly go over the PFAS report with Mr. LaRosa and then get into any of the questions you might have?
Sure.
Of our updates?
Yep.
If it's okay. Mr. LaRosa?
Great, good evening, Steve LaRosa with Weston and Sampson.
It doesn't go up any more than that. Mr. LaRosa, could you please speak loudly, because the acoustics in here aren't the greatest.
You bet. Steve LaRosa with Weston and Sampson Engineers. And if I could get screen sharing, I can put up just a couple of quick slides.
Could we get sharing ability for Mr. LaRosa? Thank you. You should be good.
Great, so we were able to get out to the site to collect soil samples on a couple of occasions. On January 5th, samples were collected for what are called RECRA 8 metals. Those are the 8 metals listed here: arsenic, barium, cadmium, chromium, lead, mercury, selenium, and silver. We also analyzed for phosphorus from the soil samples on that date. On February 16th, we visited the site and collected from similar locations samples for PFAS. The lab analysis quantifies 40 individual PFAS, including the 6 regulated by the state of Massachusetts. The sampling locations are shown here. For the metals sampling, we sampled all 3 locations, SS1, SS2, and SS3. SS1 was used as a control location. SS2 and 3 are used to show what the quality of the materials that have been transported past the limit of work at the property. For the PFAS samples, we collected samples from SS2 and SS3. Those represent the materials transported beyond the limit of work in the order condition 63 that was put forth. And then we also sampled from materials imported to the site. We had a truck full of the clay that's been used as a clay plug, and a truck full of the gravel that's been used for some of the roads and other infrastructure delivered to the site the day before we sampled. And then that way we were able to dig into those 2 piles of imported material to analyze those. The results, I know that there's a lot of numbers here, but the sample results are the last 3 columns for the RECRA 8 metals and phosphorus. we did see a number of these metals, which are naturally occurring, so we didn't expect to not see them. All of the concentrations observed from all 3 samples were below the reporting concentrations for sites that are within 100 feet of a drinking water supply in Massachusetts. And one column here that talks about natural soil. These are the concentrations of those metals that are anticipated in soils. And all of the concentrations that we observed were within those numbers or less than those background concentrations. For the PFAS concentrations, again, the last 4 columns here are the samples that we collected. The easy ones are the imported clay and gravel. There were no PFAS identified in those samples of any of the 40 that we could see. In the SS2 and SS3 samples, what we're showing here are all of the compounds that were identified within at least one of those samples and the state of Massachusetts regulated compounds. So these middle 6 compounds are the ones that are regulated by Massachusetts. All of the concentrations of PFAS that we saw in our samples are below those reporting concentrations. Additionally, I've included some background concentrations that have been developed by the state of Vermont and Maine, and all of the PFAS concentrations that we see in our soil samples are below those typical background concentrations which are seen in those other 2 states. So our conclusions, the soils associated with the property contain RCRA 8 metals at what are deemed natural soil background concentrations for Massachusetts. The PFAS samples for soils on property show concentrations well below the Mass DEP reporting limits and even below the background concentrations seen in neighboring states. The imported materials contain no detectable levels of PFAS. So we believe that the Conservation Commission order required soil sampling has been completed and that the results indicate that there are no contaminants here associated with all the analyses we've done and that no additional sampling or analysis are warranted.
Okay. Brendan, you got anything? On this first topic, yeah.
Okay, so guess some updates from the last time we talked. The Conservation Commission required that the applicant's engineer relook at Basin 5 and its functionality. I've been meeting with Blue Wave and Beals and Thomas and Mill Creek Renewables on site weekly at noontime to walk the site and review everything that's going on. Doug Bush of Haley Ward has attended the last 2 site walks as well. It looks like on the date of, let me make sure I get it right here, trying to schedule a site walk with Senator Ryan Fatman on Friday, March 22nd at this point. He is very interested in this project. So that's the date that he would like to go. It's still tentative, it's not written in stone yet, but keep that in mind. Haley Ward has been retained to do the peer review of both Basins 1 and Basin 5. Planning Board required the second look at Basin 1. Conservation Commission required the second look of Basin 5. Beals and Thomas is still working on that plan and that design. So Haley Ward is waiting for that to come in so that they can finish their review. But at the same time, Haley Ward is still doing their weekly site inspections, and we're still getting SWIP reports from was it Fuss and O'Neill? From Fuss and O'Neill as well. I'll let Pat talk about the updates in construction. He'd probably be able to do it more comprehensively. And he's the more appropriate person to ask about construction
Okay.
updates.
Pat? See?
Yep.
So, the last few weeks before this, last week we had some good weather, so we were able to get Basin 2 completely dry, excavated all the silt from the floor. Brandon was out when we were kind of constructing. There's a gravel base that goes in there, so that's installed in Basin 2. The wick under drain has been installed in Basin 2. We haven't put it through the berm yet, just because the timing with the rain, it started, we got into the rain last week before we kind of could get that in. So right now we have that installed, and we've just been working. Last week we also regraded some areas, loamed them, and did another application of straw mulch on some of the exposed areas. And then I guess we weren't here 2 weeks ago, so I think since then we've got a lot of work on the backside of Basin 5 done, the outlet, the level spreader, all the stuff that goes out on the backside there. But Basin 5, we're still kind of maintaining, pumping down water and stuff, but we haven't done anything more in the base of that one as of yet since the last meeting.
Okay, I got a couple questions for you. On these basins, are these on filled ground at all?
They're filled, yeah.
They are on filled ground?
Well, we strip down to the native soil and then build the basin berm up behind it.
What do you build it up with?
We have either on-site material or some of the imported materials that we've brought in, the clays for the...
So some of these retention ponds are on filled land then?
Yeah. And that's to get them up out of the water kind of table.
How much did you guys raise them up, do you know?
It's mostly the berm itself behind the basin. It depends. I'm not really sure off the top of my head. I mean, there's some pretty good fills in there. There's a lot of fill.
Yeah, because, the map you gave me doesn't give me what the contour lines were before, okay, in those areas. I get some up here, but you get down to the basins, it doesn't tell me what it was.
I could get that for you. I mean, it's on the other plans, but I could get you like a fill from existing conditions. I could get you that if...
Right, that's what I was looking for, was basically...
Okay. Yeah, and that, I mean, some of them are like 10 feet.
Yeah, because the red lines you gave me, I read the plan the other day when I got it, and
Yep.
this doesn't depict whether it's a tree laying on the ground, or if it's ground, or whatever, and it states right in there that it can't tell the difference,
That,
so...
could I show you something on there real
Sure.
quick, just so I can make sure? Oops.
Here's where it's telling you right here.
Yeah, so. Yeah. There's this one. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so this is like basement 5, and so we kind of took out this area here because there was a lot of trees in here, but it's more talking about like these piles in here. And so this area where we gave these red grades, there should be there's no trees or anything like that. This is all, but the way that the drone works, it's really super accurate, almost too accurate to be a really nice clean one. So this is where there's like a big pile out there. This is where there used to be like the wood chip berm. There's a wood chip berm here, and this cutoff swale coming through there. But these black are the proposed grades, and then the red are what they were on the date of the flight.
right, yeah, right.
So I could get you one, in the full plans that does have the existing conditions on there, which, actually, you know what? This is the existing conditions, that light gray underneath it.
Right, there's light gray, but there's no elevation lines on it, so.
Yeah, they're kind of, I think on the actual plans they're buried somewhere here. Kind of see one here. 695 here.
Chair, you're looking for what the existing condition was, and then what the red line represents, to be able to identify exactly
Yeah,
how
in
much
other words, red line
fill.
showing you what the drone picked up.
Yep.
Okay, and it's so detailed that you really can't pick up.
Yeah, you're just looking for what the Z note is, right?
40 here.
Yeah.
These are 1 foot contours.
We have Jeffrey from
pretty-
Beals and Thomas, who may know with,
Pretty busy print to try to
Yeah,
depict
it
that
is.
out of it.
It is.
Yeah, and what we were trying to depict was just, I thought, we were kind of showing like the black's the proposed and the red is what is out built there right now. So we're kind of saying like, all right, it's proposed to be 7-Eleven. It's at 7-Eleven right now,
That's good shit.
So we could get another plan for that.
Okay. What do you guys come up with the water runoff that the property's been having down to the neighbors?
Jeffrey?
Excuse me, I couldn't hear what was just said. It was kind of muffled.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how you're handling the runoff from the site that's affecting the neighbor's property.
On Basin 5 or 2?
Well, it's on a couple different locations that we have the runoff.
Well,
So,
there was only a one-time event that occurred with Basin 2, which was fixed on the same day.
I mean, we have been discharging water, to let the ponds out. I mean, we've been discharging Basin 2 out towards the front, and that's been, Brandon's been out there a few times. We're putting into silt sacks and discharging out through the kind of approved method out that way. The cutoff swale that's been going down through the, into the Crowell's property on the Sutton side, we're doing that to protect Basin 5 so we can kind of build that, and the water's going towards their property, but we've been trying to manage that. We've been working with them on their land to try to give a couple wattles and silt sacks and stuff like that on their property to kind of manage any runoff out that way. So we've been actively working with them on that property.
Right. There's a residence here, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but your property got affected pretty good on the water.
Lori Howe, 41 Oak Street.
I do.
And I sent some information to Brandon about the waters that's coming down, seeping through. Basically, our land is inundated, and also in front of the property today, particularly on Oak Street, the discharge or the drainage ditch was full, it was silted. Brandon has videos.
Okay. So, I mean, those are the areas that I'm curious as to how you guys are handling. We've been talking about it for a couple meetings now. How we're going to control the runoff from the site. I know you guys have the jurisdiction to control it on site, but we can't be affecting neighbors that maybe had a minimum water problem, if not any, and all of a sudden they're getting flooded out. That's not acceptable. We got to fix that. Okay? And also controlling any silt coming off the property. Now, I see some of the reports that came in, and I don't know if you guys seen the Haley Ward report that came in. I don't know if you addressed any of those issues that were on there. Haley Ward's.
Which report specifically you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the February 29th report.
We did have a response to that for the planning board, and I think in this, is it in this package?
Bring that up on the screen. Go to SWIP related. Okay. Haley Ward inspection reports.
We'll send that.
Yeah,
We have a response
should be.
specifically for it.
We did have a
Whiten it out.
response written up for that.
Yep, whiten it out. Widen. Go right to that line. Right there, yep. Pull it over. 228. Yeah. Bring that up on screen.
Because they have a few things here, like the tracking pad, it doesn't appear to be sufficient for large vehicles.
Zoom in.
Then they got into the basins that some of the work that was there. But I think it was, what caught my eye was Basin 5, where they were talking about the water on it.
What number?
Basin 5, I believe it was.
Number 4?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, leave it right there.
Which part of that specifically, Chair?
Again, I apologize, I wanted to get this done ahead of time, but I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, most of it, yeah.
I think they had, that was a Basin 5, they were alluding that possible, some of the groundwater was going into that basin. Yeah, it's item 5. The temporary diversion ditch upgraded Basin 5 appears to be collecting.
Yeah, that's the one that I had kind of mentioned that we were working with the Crolls on,
Yeah.
kind of trying to manage any water that goes onto their property.
We talking about number 5 now, temporary diversion ditch?
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that is what I would consider to be a breach of peak flow runoff and infiltration, but that's still, I guess, considered a temporary construction period BMP. So it's a little bit of a gray area there, because at the moment, I don't think you have any plans to keep it permanently. Do you?
No.
Okay, so then, unless the Crolls really, really don't want it there, and you haven't worked anything out with them, I'd say it's a problem, but it sounds like you've been working with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's ongoing for sure, but
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we had a couple of different areas. We talked about it in past meetings of the runoff, and that's what I want to see is what do you guys put in place to take care of these problems? We can't continue to flood these people out until we're done with the project. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So,
I did want to just bring up one thing we've done this last week, and Brandon had an idea previously that, we put a temporary sediment basin on the top, and with the weather coming up this week, with some heavy rains later this week, we're currently installing 2 more of those up on the very top, where we can kind of pump some stormwater up to there to kind of relieve any issues in the basin. I mean, the first one it works well. It's tough to get at sometimes when it's wet and stuff, but so we're currently installing 2 more temporary basins up on the top of the hill to try to give us somewhere to relieve stormwater from the basins.
what's your water table up there?
We've dug down, I mean, the first one we dug down 6 or 7 feet and didn't hit any water up there. So we're hoping.
What month of the year?
Well, right now.
Yeah, a month. Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. Or, I mean, when did we do that? 3 or 4 weeks ago?
It was mid-January.
Yeah.
7 feet and there was no water.
At the very top of the hill, at the very crest of the hill. But, I mean, we didn't see any water weeping in, and then we started pumping into it. I'm not sure.
Because I know you
I find that-
somebody had a report here with
believe.
maybe two meetings ago, and it showed the test holes. I know it showed some high water tables there.
Oh, I mean, anywhere there's a lot of water. But, I mean, I guess
My point being is if you dig a swale on the top of the hill and I got a 2-foot water table, then it's not long before you.
Yeah, and I mean, I
flooding
think
out.
some of the perch water table up there isn't, on the very top, isn't, there's nowhere for it to come in from. It's kind of,
Moving away.
yeah, I mean, so there's water below the surface there, but,
Right. The nature of the soils here, this time of year, you can dig down 7 feet and the bottom of the hole will actually be dry. I've seen it happen plenty of times, but the top 3 or so feet, the water comes pouring in from the top down into the hole because the soil is so dense that it's not allowing the water that fell from the sky to infiltrate any more than that top 3 feet.
Right.
Right? So that's the nature of hard pan.
Right.
So that I can believe, but, it's the very top 3 or so feet, plus or minus, right? Let's say 2 to 4 feet, depending on the undulations of the underlying topography. It's usually how that works. And my understanding of the water table of this site is that it varies, but if you were to average it out throughout the site, you're looking at about an 18-inch water table.
See, the other problem I have is that obviously these fields have been here for hundreds of years. Where did the water flow before you guys went up there? And why we all of a sudden got problems with stuff going every which way? And what do we changed it. We changed the routing something. Somebody didn't pay attention where it was going before. And now it's going places that it never went. So now it's creating other problems. And I guess that's one of my biggest concerns is that should have been directed so that it stayed with its natural route down to the ponds, wherever it was going, rather than taking a new route down there. Because I think that's what the root of the problem is causing with all the neighbors, that they're getting flooded out because they might have had a natural stream that was going down through there. Now that stream's dry, but I got a feel that you can't walk through it because you've got water up to your ankles, so.
Jeffrey, would you like to comment on that?
So, I can get into, I guess, some of the bigger picture items that we're working to address. So again, as was discussed, we're working on developing a sub-drain, upgrading of Basin 5 to intercept water that's coming from the upper part of the site, basically intercept the groundwater and reroute it around the basin and reintroduce it down gradient of the basin. This was something that we had talked about when we were on site a couple weeks ago. I think it was on the 21st.
Share it again.
I can pull up a plan if that would be helpful.
You already have the plan open, though. Share screen. You already have. Oh, where was it? I can open it up again. Okay.
Give me a second here.
The as-built.
Is he trying to share something?
I think he is,
Yeah, just share. Give me a second.
Oh, he's going to
All right.
check.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Let's see. So I think it was on the 16th of February, we had sent out an email with an update on some of the design changes we were looking at implementing. So with respect to Basin 5, it's installing a sub-drain to basically intercept the groundwater that's coming off of the upper part of the hill, given the shallow water table condition, and rerouting it around the basin. That way, it's basically separating the groundwater flow from the superficial overland flow, which the basin is intended to capture the runoff from the overland flow and is conveyed into the basin via the capture swales that we're going to have, and then the sediment forebay. There'll be a pipe that'll send the water under the road to the basin itself, and then there's also this outer swale along the northerly side of the road that will capture runoff from the access road and send that down to the basin. So the goal of the subdrain is to basically separate the groundwater from the surface water, and then reintroducing that groundwater below the basin into and above the area of the wetland, because as has been discussed, in the natural state, the groundwater was moving, across the entire landscape, roughly 2 feet below the surface, and generally following the contour topography of the land. However, in order to build the basins and the roads and things, we needed to do grading to basically be able to capture the surface runoff, and by disturbing that is essentially what has caused that water to become exposed, and now the the goal is to try to get the water around the stormwater basins and reintroduce it to the landscape so that it's continuing to move in the direction it was already moving, but do that and do so independently of the stormwater basins themselves, which are intended to capture the superficial water. So that's really the goal of what we're looking at right now, is trying to separate those two. And then in the short term, as Pat said, the basins are kind of acting as just holding ponds for the moment, and they're having to use pumps to pump the water to the temporary kind of basin that they have constructed at the top of the hill. And then the overflow from that, it's able to just kind of find its way down through the undisturbed portions of the site in the next phase 4 area. So that's kind of how it's being managed in the short term with Basin 5, until such time that conditions allow that this, this will obviously have to be reviewed and approved, but once this feature is installed, then also they will be installing the remaining features of the pond itself, the wick drain, and then the outlet control structure and pipe. But they still have some work to do to get that done. And then I think we've talked about Basin 2, the way that that's kind of being addressed in the short-term construction period is that water from that basin, now that that one is much further along, the wick drain pipe is now installed in the floor of the basin, and as Pat said, as conditions allow, when there's another good window of weather, is when they're going to install the outlet control structure, outlet pipe, and then the outlet pipe from the wick drain. And in the construction period, so that they don't have to rely on dewatering the basin through pumping, the wick drain is going to be the mechanism in the short term that will allow them to draw the water down in the basin, as needed, versus pumping it. But obviously continuing to monitor the conditions, and that can only be done if the water is sufficiently clean to discharge to that location. So of course they'll be monitoring that, as conditions go forward.
So the 6-inch ball valve, that's what's draining down the sediment ponds?
So there's
Jeffrey?
There's a wick drain underneath the pond that's like a 6-inch perforated pipe, and then there's a solid pipe that will leave the wick drain, and then there'll be a valve on the end that can be regulated to control the outflow of the wick drain, which will discharge into the riprap swale that goes to the level spreader pool at the base of the slope.
And that feeds off that pipe on the bottom of the retention pond?
Yep, so that's the wick drain, but that's not the main drain of the pond.
Well, what I'm getting at is,
There's another main
all your
drain.
silt's going to settle to the bottom, right?
Right.
And now you got a pipe there that we're going to open up and drain it out, so the silt's going to go with it.
So it's wrapped in fabric, and it's got crushed stone around it. So it's got crushed stone, it's got fabric wrapped around it, it's got crushed stone, then a layer of crushed stone on top, and right now we've got an additional piece of fabric on top of that to try to keep the stone clean while we do it, while we're in the construction phase. That would be taken off and replaced and taken off. Once the site is fully grown in, we'll take that top piece of non-woven fabric off.
I'm just trying to get an idea of how this thing's supposed to work.
So that's the wick drain, but the main function Jeff could probably go into is like the outlet control structure.
Yeah, so each of the basins have a unique outlet control structure. So this is the detail for Basin 2. So the basin bottom is here. So this structure is going to be kind of facing inwards towards the basin, the side of the structure. So it's going to allow the water in the basin to pond up 6 inches before it reaches this lowest outlet orifice. And then the water, once it gets to that 6-inch depth mark, will flow through this opening, and then it'll flow into the outlet control structure. This on the left is a side view. The water will come through the structure and then into that outlet pipe. And then it'll go into that that riprap swale that you saw on the previous plan that goes to the base of the slope to that oval-shaped level spreader pool, which is intended to fill up, and then it has that concrete curved weir that is going to spread the water flow out, across a wider area before it leaves the limit of work.
Okay.
So I guess short term, it's the water in the basin is going to be managed through pumping until such time that the water can be is going to be clean enough that they can then start to use the wick drain to release the water. And then certainly once the vegetation starts to grow in the spring, that should improve the clarity of the water entering the basin as well.
So basically, the way this works is that the bottom of the pond really not accepting water. You're doing it through the 6-inch pipe, correct? To control the level?
So the wick drain is really meant to be a maintenance tool. So in the long term, the intent is like, here's kind of a quick cross section. So like the wick drain pipe is installed it's basically a stone lined trench in the floor of the basin. So in the long term operations, the goal is to have that wick drain pipe just basically sitting there and then have the valve closed, and then the water will pond up to that 6-inch mark before it actually flows out of the outlet pipe. So we're essentially impounding that first 6 inches of water, and that's the goal of what we ideally would want to infiltrate into the soil below, which we know is probably going to go very slow. But again, we did install this gravel layer at the bottom of the pond, and they mucked out the sediment that was there before installing that gravel base there. And they're likely going to have to do some, additional rehab and scarification of that towards the end of construction after things become more stabilized. And one of the things that we did talk on site about with Brendan and Doug Bush of Haley Ward was originally we had intended to loam and seed the bottom of the basin, but kind of given what we've seen so far with the soils being so poorly infiltrating, we're throwing around the idea of potentially not putting loam and seed down on the floor of the basin and trying to just keep it that gravel layer in an effort to, basically improve or create a best case scenario for the water to be able to draw down. The side slopes will still be loamed and seeded, but just the floor of the basin, we're thinking that it may be best to not do that.
Okay. You have anything? Mike, you have anything?
Nope.
Brennan, anything else?
Not at the moment.
Anybody from the floor? Yes.
I would ask...
Name, what's your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, Lori Hout, 41 Oak Street. I'm getting so comfortable sitting up here. I almost forgot. Brandon, did you receive my email from Sunday?
I did.
Okay. I don't know if the board received that through Jen or Matt Benoit.
I don't know if it was distributed to the rest of the commission, but I didn't do it myself.
Okay. I would just like to point out that there have been a lot of conversations about the infiltration rates and, questions about the in situ infiltration tests being done by the basins. And the original plans that I saw were based on calculations relating to infiltration rates in the basins and the type of soils that are on the site. It's become clear that the type of soils that were on the site were not necessarily explored fully which I discussed a bit at the last meeting and included some information in the email that I sent. As time has gone on, the infiltration basins have turned into retention ponds. So it sounds to me that because the dirt on the site was not properly calculated to begin with, the dirt that is in the basins is not infiltrating, which leads me to believe that the dirt on the rest of the site is also not going to infiltrate properly. The idea of this site was that it was approved as 99.5% permeable. It seems to be 0% permeable. So I'd like to know what's going to happen aside from, trucking in a few inches of topsoil that they already removed. What's going to happen to make that permeable in such a way that it will be effective in reducing the water. If you go back to the plans, the original calculations on infiltration rates, based on the soil types that they were estimating that apparently were wrong, that's how they figured out how big the basins needed to be. So are those calculations wrong too? And I would also ask what the discharge rate of these outlet control structures are. So basically you're saying that water is going to fill up in these basins, and depending upon how much rain we get, how quickly, it's going to go out either at a slow rate or at a faster rate, but it's going to go out. It's not infiltrating in any kind of natural way, and it's going to go out in these 5 or however many they end up with areas. And that doesn't seem right to me, and ultimately I just feel like this has become something that was never intended by the original permitting authorities. This is 61A land, and it's been completely stripped. I really take issue with the use of the word undisturbed. Undisturbed. People who really love the environment would never call what you see up there, any part of it, undisturbed, okay? And, I just think that there are some conversations that are not happening. There are some questions that are not happening. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why from meeting to meeting, we keep asking them to try to get the water to stop coming down onto my property. I sent Brandon videos today. I didn't even realize how bad it was. Our whole backyard is turning to moss. We bought that property 5 years ago. We have proof that it was not that way, okay? And the only change is that these people came in and pulled out approximately 400 trees, by the way, which was a question that they were not able to answer ever. Oh, we don't know, we're just, I'm tired of the we don't knows. I'm tired of the misdirection. I'm tired of it. And we're all tired of it. And I know that they just want to get their solar panels up, but that is 6,000 holes more that they have to drill and get down there and further disrupt this hard pan that is going to cause further silt. And quite frankly, it just sounds like they're trying to change everything about the site. It sounds like there's going to be a water layer, hard pan, another water layer, and then solar panels sticking up out of it. I would encourage you to review my email and take into consideration some of these issues a little bit more deeply than we have been. I know the board's been trying really hard, but I feel like going 2 weeks and 2 weeks and 2 weeks between meetings, things are being missed. Brandon is overrun with our comments and emails and pictures and videos.
Sorry.
This needs to be taken seriously, and they're just continuing to move forward with this project when most of us feel like it needs to be shut down. If you could maybe show the videos from today, Brandon, that would really be helpful.
Well, let's see how many actually got it with the chairman's permission, if we have time.
Go ahead.
That was all I had. Thank you.
Will you be showing?
So, Douglas. 14, okay. Pictures, 2433. Now, Lori, is this the squish squish one?
No.
No? The ones from
The ones I sent today from the OneDrive folder,
what time did you send them?
about 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, I was already here.
Okay,
So that's going to be a little tough.
all right.
So we can just review those and,
Yeah. They came around, what, 5 o'clock, you said? Let's see what we got here. So here's the
Chair.
thing, is that if you're going to send information, I need it before 5 o'clock the night of the meeting, that's all.
Understood.
Yeah.
Chair, we have supported the review, not just supported, but also financially supported the review by Haley Ward.
Yeah.
In all these instances. I would imagine that their results will have an impact to some of these things.
they will.
So if you sent it to the Douglas address, I don't have that available on my laptop.
Well, we will take a look at it, Laurie.
Yeah.
Okay. But again,
They're
I
public
think,
domain.
I
as
think
soon
you
as they come.
guys,
So, yeah.
I think you guys understand what's going on here, that we meet here every 2 weeks, and we talk about the same thing. We gotta stop talking about, we gotta fix them, okay? It's gotta be fixed. It's getting to the point, it's getting,
Mr. Chairman, right now, the big thing that's going on with Conservation and Planning Board is that Blue Wave has been asked to basically redesign Basins 1 and 5 to look, because they're obviously not working as originally designed, right? There's we call quote-unquote issues going on, right? To give the big umbrella. Jeff Murphy of Bills and Thomas is creating new site plans, new stormwater reports, everything that goes along with that, including any adjustments, changes, whatever that needs to be made. Corey Brodeur and Doug Bush of Haley Ward are going to be doing that review. Once that's all done, the commission is going to have to make some very hard decisions. So at the moment, I'm not making any judgment calls on the issues going on here with the design of the basins. I'm waiting for Haley Ward's report to come in.
no, I wasn't making any judgment calls, but what I'm saying is, this has gotta come to an end. We can't just keep every 2 weeks coming out here and we still got the same problems that we had when we started. Okay, so that's what I'm getting at. It's gotta be addressed, and we gotta look at it, and we gotta take it serious.
I mean, we're looking back to December when we had massive problems on the site. We discharged sediment. We're nowhere near that. If any of you guys would like to come out site, I mean, we've had visits from the site. The changes in the site out there are totally, it's not where we were before. We're discharging water per our construction general permit right now. We have the ability to discharge water from the site.
Yeah.
We're discharging it. Is every day, every single thing, every second perfect? No, but we're constantly out there monitoring, pumping, discharging, moving water around on site to keep it clean, to keep it, and also have volume to take the storms that are coming in the middle of the winter. We've had tough conditions out there, but I mean, we've built half the site right now to the plan in the middle of winter, in a terrible winter. And
I understand that, but by the same token, you do have neighbors that are being affected by this, and we just can't
and I
say,
understand that.
well,
and we-
it's under construction, and in 2 years from now, we'll be doing construction, everything's going to be fine.
And I understand that, and we had 1.5 inches of rain Saturday night. No water left the site Saturday, and during the week, we slowly release it. There's water going to leave the site, whether we were there or not. There's water to come off the site.
Okay. Any question from the floor? Yes, Shirley.
I'm not going to come up to the table, but my name is Shirley Mazinski, 60 Oak Street. And when you say that water doesn't leave the site, and I walk down the road and water is flowing out of areas, out of a wall that's between two residents and into a catch basin, and then when it isn't flowing into the catch basin and it's running down the road, and I can hear the water inside that catch basin still gurgling and flowing. Help me understand how this is going to get resolved. And how many of these types of construction for solar have been built by you people? How many?
I think that you claimed that we had built the Wallem Lake. Is that correct?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
And I know that
I know you
that's
wasn't
not
associated with
what
that
I'm
one.
hearing.
okay, thank you.
I heard that wasn't true, but I didn't say that. I just want to know, help us understand, how many of these have you built?
So I'd like to address just what's at hand here, right? Which is the water that's leaving the site and going into the swale and then going to the catch basin. It's our understanding that water has always done so, and there's been a challenge on Oak Street for a long period of time, as well as I think the street that goes down towards Montauk Pond. What street is that? Holt Road, with both water and ice that has built up over time. So we in the end result of the basin will not be contributing any greater amount of water. And I think Pat described perfectly what the in-state construction circumstances are.
Okay, so I've lived in this area since probably 1980. I know the area fairly well. The only time there's water down there when we have substantial rain. But under normal rain circumstances, there was no water down there. So I don't know what you're referring to where the water was always a problem down there.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't recall it, so.
So, I mean, if you come out and go to the right out of 45 Oak Street, coming to the property, if water discharges Basin 1 there, that's the discharge point for Basin 1. And if you go down 2 more houses, there's water coming off the hill from not our part of the hill. And if you go down, there's water, I'm sure if Sunday you drove down that road, there's 8 or 10 points of discharge from the top of the hill to Manchog Pond where there's water coming off that hill. We've had a really wet winter, and the discharge coming off our site, if I drive down that road, there's 5 or 6 points that are at least as much discharge coming off that road. I'm not from the area, so I can't say whether that's always been there or not, but there's a lot of water coming off the hill just in general. And if I go around to Wallem Lakeside, there's water coming off the hill.
Well, you should have planned for it.
It's, again, it's something that we've got to see what a natural flow was before, and I mean, it's got to kind of go to that, because from what I'm hearing here tonight and past nights, the water is just being basically redirected, okay? So if you have somebody's yard that was dry and all of a sudden now they got moss growing there, then that tells me that they're getting a lot more water than they usually had. So, and I've asked you guys a couple of times, so let's look at this and find out why this is happening, okay? So that's what I'm looking for. What can we do to improve this?
And we have looked at that. We've made modifications since all the times that you have mentioned those things. When there have been instances in the past, it's been during construction, and we have made those modifications to make it to the point where it is now, where we have no turbid water leaving on this side, on the Oak Street side of the basin, of the project.
Right, and I'm not talking about the turbulent water, I'm talking about the water running down through these areas, okay? That's what I'm talking about, and it's, again, that's got me more concerned as to how's this thing draining, how's it designed out, how's it working? That's why I asked somebody else to take a look at it and check the review.
And like I said, we support that, and we've paid for that.
Mm-hmm. When are these reports going to be done, Brennan?
Good question. So I guess the question would be to Jeff Murphy. How are we looking at all the work you're doing regarding Basin 1 and Basin 5, and when will you have a deliverable ready?
We are working on it, hoping to get something together in the next few weeks, but it's certainly, we're putting a lot of thought into it, and this is certainly not something that we intend to rush. We do understand the urgency involved, but at the same time, I need to be comfortable with the changes before we submit those for review and discussion. So we are making progress.
When is Haley Ward's review of the existing basins going to be due, Brandon?
There was never any due date on it. We've just basically been waiting for Beals and Thomas and Jeff to finish his work.
On Basin 1.
Yeah.
5, are they moving on with 5?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what their status is.
The scope we saw was that they would be reviewing.
Who's they?
They, Haley Ward.
Haley
reviewing
Ward.
Basin 5. We're not redesigning
They're
Basin
reviewing
5.
Basin 1 for Planning Board.
Mhm.
They're reviewing Basin 5 for Conservation Commission. There was never any deadlines put on when that redesign, the things that Jeff Murphy's working on right now had to be done.
But there's no redesign that's been requested of us of Basin 5 is my point. They're supposed to be reviewing the existing.
They're reviewing the...
When will they be prepared for that?
He's also proposing a drain around...
I don't know that. Is that a part of his review?
Jeff is proposing some amendments to that to deal with groundwater discharge. So I would consider that a redesign, but we got, whatever he's presenting is what he's presenting. I don't know how you want to call it, a relook, a redesign. Whatever he's proposing to show is what Haley Ward is going to be reviewing.
Okay. That is not the way that I understand what we read as a part of us giving, paying the funds for the review. I appreciate you explaining it. Thank you.
Okay, as far as the review goes, that's what they're supposed to, we didn't ask them to redesign it. We asked them to review it.
Yep.
Because the board's not going to get into a position where we're telling you, redesign this or redesign that. That's not our job.
Right.
So.
See what they say, and then that.
Right.
Correct.
I think the point is that the commission feels that the current design isn't working, and it needs to be looked at again.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else from the board? You guys got anything? Anybody from the floor? Yes.
Phyllis Charpentier, Manchac Pond Foundation. I'd just like to point out that the lake is opening for swimming. March and April, the campers come back. Kids are swimming in March. We're running out of time. I went out with the 1.5 inches of rain that we had Sunday morning. The area by the dam, the sediment was clear. There was like a greenish-brown hue to that portion of the lake. There was sediment as I drove up Oak Street, sediment coming, a nice line of sediment right at the entrance. The telephone pole across from the entrance, there's a hole there where it's been eroded because of the flow. There was a puddle in front of Mr. Dieter's house. His front door was wet from the night before. I just need to stress the urgency of getting this taken care of. I'm very pleased that there was no PFAS found, at concerning rates. I'm happy with the metals, but total phosphorus is an issue. It occurs naturally in the soil. It washes down from that hillside. You're going to redirect water from Basin 5. That flow is going to pick up the phosphorus right into Manchac Pond. You're overwhelming that wetlands. We had that redesigned through a 319 grant recently to capture and hold the water, and your redirecting is just overwhelming the whole system, and there's sediment still flowing, and there's been far more than just one incident. But I just can't stress enough the urgency in getting this redesign done so that Manchac Pond is safe for the public. to start swimming and boating for the season. Campground's open April 15th. Campers are coming the 1st. We have 3 campgrounds, and we have the YMCA day camp. When they're redirecting water, the Basin 2 water being pumped, it's going down to that cold water fishery that's entering another whole portion of Manchog Pond. So it's really urgent that this gets taken care of as soon as possible. Thank you.
Is there anything else on the floor? Is there anything on Zoom?
Charlotte, go ahead. That's all right with you, Mr. Chairman?
I share, Charlotte Kroll, 78 Torrey Road.
Speak loudly, Charlotte.
What?
Speak loudly, please.
78 Torrey Road. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Okay. I'm not sure where the speaker will pick up here from this thing.
It's probably right where the camera is.
Okay. 78 Torrey Road. Is that good?
Better, yeah, talk right into it. There you go.
Okay. 78 Torrey Road. How's that?
That's good.
Okay. Sutton, my concern is once these plans are reviewed, are we going to restore my 1,200 linear feet of water, or are we just going to poke it into the ground in just 1 or 2 or 3 places? Is that going to be changed?
Well, Charlotte, how does this relate to wetlands?
Well, I've got a farm, and the water used to flow through my farm to your wetlands. And now it's piped through, but that's another issue.
So what's the issue? Is that they're discharging more water in some places and less water in other places? Is that your issue?
Yes, because the way it's designed is, you're taking 1,200 linear feet of water and you're turning it into about 100 to 200, maybe 300 feet of linear water to put
Right.
the basins in.
So if you think about that from a regulatory perspective, this is a stormwater standard 3 issue, infiltration, which is something that Mr. Murphy's working on and that Mr. Bush from Haley Ward is going to be reviewing hopefully in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
And let me explain to you, we are not a subdivision. The most houses being put on this place is 3. We already have 1. This is a farm. So the stormwater that you're putting in place is not the same for a farm. So you're taking water from half my farm and squirting it into 3 different places. Plus, it's in case of Basin 5, you're squirting it past it.
Right. So there's 2 main standards in the stormwater standards. The first one is that you can't exceed the peak flow rate off the site. So whatever the flow rate of water was before construction, it can't increase. And the other part of it is that you have to have infiltration of water on site. And I think what Charlotte's main complaint here is that before construction, the water shed off the site nice and evenly, throughout, right? It was nice and spread out. Now it's being concentrated in the areas where the basins are. So whether or not that meets the stormwater standards, given the fact that everybody agrees that the current design isn't working, is something that Haley Ward is going to be reviewing.
Okay, so at least I'll have some kind of input, or at least know.
There will be a report, yes.
Okay. I guess, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, I'd like to continue this.
Right, we are doing now
I'd like to get an
enforcement.
idea when these the engineers are going to be done with this thing. So for the next meeting, we have if they don't have them by then, I'd like to have some ideas when we're going to see it, rather than we're working on it, we'll get to it. I want to try to get this thing wrapped up and find out where we're going, because you're going to get a little bit of rain here, so.
So I just heard Mr. Murphy say, hopefully in the next 3 weeks, right? So that wouldn't bring us to the next meeting, which is on March 18th. But April 1st is our next meeting, so I suppose I should ask Mr. Murphy, is it reasonable, do you think, we can get all of that by April 1st?
We'll strive to make that happen.
One more time, please, I didn't hear that.
Yes, we will endeavor to meet that deadline.
Now, will that give enough time for the other guys to be able to review it?
Well, I mean, that's a good question for Mr. Bush, because he's online as well. I mean, if he could chime in as to how long he thinks his review time would be, that would be good to help the commission with timelines. Are you there, Doug?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, so it shouldn't take us too long, a week or two. After that, we should have it reviewed and report.
Okay, so if we give like grace period, we're talking about April 1st, thereabouts for Beals and Thomas's report and plans, another 2 or so weeks from Haley Ward, we're talking in the middle of April, if we went even to the first meeting in May, before.
April 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
The one after the first.
All right, so how about we endeavor to have all this dust settle?
Yeah, we got to.
And make hard decisions by April 22nd?
Yes.
You think that's enough time?
It's going to have to be, because we'll be back here in December talking about it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so April 22nd will be the next meeting on this, right?
The next meeting for the enforcement is 4/1. We've been doing these monthly.
Okay.
But it looks like we're going to be talking about it twice, this one anyway, in April.
Okay.
Okay?
So they should be able to be done with their engineering by then.
Hopefully,
Okay.
yes.
All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have CRG 105 and 123 Gilboa Street. Is anybody here for that, for the cubes? No?
We have Doug Bush as well from Haley Ward, who put out a storm damage restoration plan peer review report dated February 20th. So we can get into that, but it looks like we got somebody here as well.
Mitchell Roush with Clayco.
Okay. So I had asked for a topo map of the site. I guess you guys are working on that now. Going over it. The guy that was here last time, he said that.
My civil engineer who's tied up tonight asked me to attend. Just here to, all he said is just an update, but I will answer any questions
Okay.
or any updates.
Well, just
and
tell
I will
him that-
follow up with him on the
Yeah,
topo
I'm
map.
still waiting on that. And you're familiar with the system, correct?
Can you check this?
You're familiar with the system? You're familiar with the system? So, okay.
Which system are you?
I was looking at it Sunday, and the catch basins by where it washed out, they're in place again. The water level was right at the bottom of the grates, basically the same level as the retention ponds. So if we got more water, how would that I'm trying to figure out how the system's supposed to work.
We have some extremely large underground storage tanks, water storage tanks.
Right.
And when we had the storm back in December, those still remain below level by 8 feet. So I understand what you're saying is on Sunday there was rain and the regular storm system, the regular catch basins were filling up. So the discharge obviously has got some type of, I don't know.
Do you have those pictures, Brendan?
I didn't have a chance to download them.
We have cameraed all the catch basins. Those have been referred back to Beals Associates and Todd. He has all that information.
Let me see if you can pull them up, because I took some pictures while I was out.
Well, you know what, go to the emails, to my email, and go to the one from oh, did you send it to my Douglas address?
I sent it to your phone.
Oh, that's right, and then I downloaded them on my phone. Now I got to take them from my phone and put them in here. So,
Technology.
yeah, I haven't had an opportunity to do that. But go ahead and talk.
But, like I said, when I was out there, the catch basins themselves, the water level was right to the bottom of the grate. So it was like, if we get any more rain, and that was basically the same height as what your retention pond was. So I'm saying, okay, how is this thing working? You see what I'm saying?
No, I
That your
understand what you're
levels
saying.
exactly, we got more rain, is this thing gonna overflow again? What's going on? Then I noticed that the pond that you had cleaned up, there was a lot of sediment that was still suspended, floating around, okay? And I took some pictures, and so you can see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay? I'm concerned where all the sediment's coming from, you know, because that's right down in the wetlands themselves. So, and if you can't get it out. Almost got it?
I'm going to, looking at the pictures that I've seen, they've cleaned up all the washout down there.
Right, they cleaned it up.
And that's all now, for lack of a better term, virgin soil there. There is a directive that we have to put some straw matting down there for protection, and that is not there yet. As of today, my contractor was out there looking at the materials he needed to get, number one, for the general repair work, as well as finishing that area down there. And that area down there, the isolated land subject to flooding, whatever, however it's phrased, we still need to get down there and finish cleaning all that up. And again, put down the straw matting and protect that. So I don't have, the pictures I saw didn't show me sediment or anything in that water area. So if there is, I can only address it, but I can also tell you that my contractor was there today, preparing to be there tomorrow to address these items.
Okay, so here's the pond, the level, and you can see that the water's not crystal clear, but, okay, you can see what the level is. You want to go to the next one? That's just shooting, that's just looking the other way, up towards Hartford Ave. This is down the embankment. As you cleaned it up, you see the water at the bottom? I mean, it shows a lot of sediment there. That's the catch basin showing where they are, the ones that you repaired and you put in. Now there, right there, if you can see the water right below the grate.
I can't tell if those have baskets in them that need to be replaced. But I can go out there tomorrow and I can double check all these and also meet with my contractor to make sure if there are silt baskets in there.
Well, when I looked in them, they were, like I said, I seen water. Okay, so whether you had a basket underneath it, I don't know. I didn't see any telltale. Normally you see it on the edge.
You would, yes, and I just need, I'd like to double check and if, but I'll get it addressed.
And that's the one that's opposite, that washed out on the other side, because you got two of them there. You got one on that side, and then where it washed out, you have another one. Both of them were exactly the same. and they look to be about the level of the retention pond. So, and then with the sediment down there, I'm saying, where's that coming from? Is it residue from the other rain or what? But it wasn't we didn't have a high rain event on Sunday. And I just thought it was kind of odd that these would be full and we'd have that much, the water, you see how cloudy it was.
Yes.
So I'd like to have some kind of idea what's going on there and have somebody look at it and give the commission a report as to what's going on. Now, the bankings, I know that we talked about it, they were supposed to be dressing those bankings. Do you know when that's going to happen?
That area that you just took a picture of is...
No, I'm talking right here, the banking in the back.
Right, that area that you just...
Yeah.
That area is actually going to be covered in riprap, starting at the end of the month, when we do the whole restoration.
The whole banking around that retention pond?
Not the whole bank, but the section where the low point, the washout is all new riprap, and then the remainder of it is all going to be sprayed for seed, and then it'll be stabilized with whatever we need to.
What I'm talking about is not that one there. You want to go back to the retention pond? See the banking around the retention pond? That there has not been addressed yet, that I can see.
It was all set to be addressed when the storms hit.
Okay.
Number two, it was a long time to get it built, and therefore, it just didn't, I'll say it, didn't get addressed soon enough. Did we protect it as the way we probably should have? No. But we've taken into account everything we need to do. We've taken all the Haley Ward suggestions, all the reports. We've worked with our my civil engineer, our SWIP inspectors, and know what we need to do to address it. Beals has redesigned some protections in all those areas that we, our subcontractor is preparing all the materials, and then I have a meeting with him to make sure when you're going to have it and the date that we're starting to start moving forward with all the restoration and protections in place. What you saw on Sunday is new to me, so that is something that I would like to get back out there, take a look at, and as long as they're going to be on site, I can address it with them tomorrow.
Right. Okay. I was just curious on the bankings, when you're,
And that's, again,
either you're going to put down matting, you're going to seed it, whatever you're going to do.
We're going to seed it and spray it, and
I
then
just, every time I
protect
go up there, I can see what's just washing down the banking, and obviously it's just going into the bottom of the retention pond, and now it's not filtering anything, so.
Right, but there's a restoration plan that can require the dewatering of that basin and on-site in situ infiltration testing. Right, which brings me, Mr. Chairman, to the Haley Ward report of February 20th, and I was wondering if you'd entertain Mr. Bush to go through the talking points of his review.
Sure.
Okay. Doug, you there? You're muted.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
So you want to go by one by one?
That'd be great.
Yep, so we took a look at the report. Comment number one is because of the overflow of the roadway and, erosion of soils that occurred there and asphalt, we looked at that, and I think it's something that we would like to see, soil testing of the soil that's underlying those areas. And then in addition, some compaction testing to make sure that everything is at that 95% compaction level. I think this basin is planned to be, or that roadway area, that particular area that got washed out, is the overflow, the only overflow for this spillway. So this basin. This basin is solely relying on infiltration. And if infiltration doesn't work, then the roadway is being utilized as an overflow spillway. So yeah, we would like to see that roadway section being retested and recompacted. That's number one.
Can I?
Any questions on that one?
On February 28th, Beals and Associate responded to all of Haley Ward's comments. It was forwarded to Matthew Benoit. In response to that is, yes, we do have testing in place for when that roadway is removed, testing the soils in place, and then proper testing as the soils go back in place for the subbase for the roadway.
You want to read it?
Okay.
So there's a response letter, am I correct? Did I hear that correctly?
That is correct.
Stated, what, the 28th?
Yes.
Have you not gotten that, Doug?
We have not gotten that yet.
All right, I'll make sure to get that to you, like, right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay?
All right, so comment number 2.
Yep.
Based on what I just said prior, utilizing the roadway as a overflow, that station 12 plus 0 to 13 plus 50 right of the roadway is going to be rip-wrapped on the slope of the infiltration basin. And the only issue with that is, that poses some maintenance issues that I did not see in the operation and maintenance manual. So that's, that may need to be updated to reference that.
Okay. Was there a response to that you want to go through?
27 inches of 12 to 18 inch stone at the top with filter fabric, create a barrier for vegetation to establish a root system and grow. There's more to it, but Beals has addressed your concerns. Now, and having noted the above, we believe that it would be a simple addition to the overall O&M manual to require quarterly inspection of the riprap slopes and hand removal of any vegetation that is observed to become established.
Okay, so what I would like to do, Brennan, is
Hello?
Brennan?
Yeah.
Who's the engineer we have on?
Doug Bush.
All right, so maybe forward us to Doug Bush so we can take a look at it rather than going through and reading it over, and just we'll forward it to him and we can get it on the next review.
Okay.
Acceptable?
Yep.
And that'll give you a chance to get me the topo maps that I've asked for.
Yep. And you want information about the catch basins?
Right.
And with the storms coming, I saw you nod, I'm sorry, you caught it outside my eye. With the storms coming, I've spoken with my environmentalist. If we need to, if that starts to reach the peak of that, we have got a plan to pump the water through filtration bags and into my storm detention basins where I have room for water storage.
Okay.
They've also been put on notice that, unlike before, they need to be there to monitor and when that happens, so they are on board with all that.
Okay.
So I hear what you're saying, but that's the plan that we were able to discuss today to put together for the storms coming this week.
Yeah, because I guess Thursday we're going to get some substantial rain this AM, but
Mr. Chairman, there was an interim as-built done of the basin dated 1/31/24. Is that the one you're talking about? Are you talking about the entire site, or?
no, they were going to give me one on the retention pond, the whole area that.
Well, that's it.
Okay, but I didn't get it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were at the last meeting, he said he was going over all the numbers because they were very close. He wanted to make sure there was no errors.
Okay.
So, and that's where it was left. I haven't received anything since, so.
Okay. I'll get that over to you.
Yeah, send me a full-size paper copy. Trying to do it on the phone is a little tough.
Okay, we need a full-size paper copy of that as-built.
Okay. Anything else, Brennan?
No.
Anything from the floor? Anybody online want to comment on this? All right, so next meeting is when? We
March
doing,
18th.
but when are we doing the reviews on this? We're not doing March.
We're doing it once a month. We're doing the enforcement issues once a month.
All right, so we'll do it April, right?
Yeah, April
1st or 22nd?
April 1st to 22nd. We might as well do it on the 1st.
Do it on the 1st?
Yeah.
Okay, so April 1st, we'll do another review on it. In the meantime, we'll send that report, your response to it over to the engineer. He can go through it, and if he has any comments, we'll know at that time.
Okay.
All right?
And get you the drawings.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next. Okay, next we have Lake Shore Drive enforcement order.
Dave Kale, Lakeshore Drive. I was ordered by the board to have an as-built built. If the weather's cooperative, they'll be out there tomorrow doing all the field work. And I'll definitely have the as-built by next meeting.
Okay.
The delay was, they just wanted to see the edge of the road with the snow on it, now that the snow's gone.
Right.
But that'll be done by the end of the week, and they should, we'll have that information for you.
Brendan, you been out there?
Yep. They've done a lot of work. They've done a lot of work, and that's where the as-built plan will come in handy, just to document everything that they've done.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna, it'll be nice for you, it's a stamp plan.
Okay.
So, they called me today and said they'll be out tomorrow, but I don't know, it's supposed to rain like hell, so.
No, it's saying next 3 days we're gonna get rain, but.
Yeah, but anyway, they'll get there the second they have a working day.
So you'll have by April 1st?
Yeah, probably, hopefully next meeting.
Okay. Well, that's the next one.
Well, next one's March 18th.
Yeah.
But the enforcements we're doing once a month.
Yeah, you're right, right. So we'll.
Yeah, it'll be done
It'll
by-
definitely be done by the
Yeah,
time, next time we talk
I'll
about
have,
this.
But if you can hand it in ahead of time, so.
Yeah, I'll have Kevin Jarvis just email directly to the PDFs, and that'll keep the updates.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can get us a full-size copy.
Yeah.
So we're here and we can kind of talk.
Yeah, I'll bring you as many sets as you want.
Yeah, we're trying to look at the screen, you're getting the glare off the lights, and it's like.
No, big enough for all of you.
That's it. I don't want to say I'm getting old, but.
The other thing was road ownership. Did you hear from Mark today?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
He explained things in an email.
Okay.
So, regarding who owns the road, there's an association.
Right.
Can you explain to me how the association works? Well, for the record, for everybody.
Yeah, we're going to have a chairman. All the people involved have already been notified. We will have all the, there's bank accounts set up already, and we'll have all the names and everything for you. Probably middle of next week. Instead of giving you sketchy information, I just figured.
All right. Mind if I read a email into the record that explains something about the association? All right. Dear Mr. Fanoff, Mr. Cahill asked that I send an explanation of the homeowner's role in the upkeep of this road from attorney Mark Wickstrom. The homeowners association was formed at the suggestion of the town planning office, but in the end was not required by the planning board in the approval of the last 5 A&R lots. The association owns that portion of the road, and only to the middle of the road, in front of 7 lots that are part of it. Assessors lots 36.1, 38.1 through 38.5 and 39. The members of the association could voluntarily dissolve if all members saw fit. The members of the association are only responsible for road work that is approved by a vote of the majority of the members and is a method to join together to pay for any approved work that it undertakes. The members are not obligated except to each other and by a vote of the majority to take up any road repairs. Any member or members of the association may voluntarily take up and pay for road repairs or improvements on their own without involving the association, just like any other owner along this road or any other private road. I hope this helps. Mark Wickstrom.
Okay.
So that's how the association works.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll have everything,
Right.
for probably middle of next week and the next week for you.
Okay. Anything from you guys, Jim? Mike? No? Anything from the floor? Is anybody on Zoom? Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, this is Bob Moran, Lakeshore Drive, 56 Lakeshore Drive. And I was hoping to hear that the plan was going to be provided, but I guess that'll happen tomorrow. So I didn't quite hear a part about the road association. Was everyone on this road notified? I don't believe I received any notification.
About what?
The association, the road association. He wants to know if all the people were notified. Did you notify everybody?
Are they obligated to notify anybody else about the association?
The people that live on it, it's going to be affected?
I don't know what the legalities are associated with that.
You certainly will be affected by it. So I would ask that we be notified of those proceedings.
Can you check with your lawyer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
If you could have Mark get back to me tomorrow about whether or not you are obligated or the association is obligated to tell other people who live on the road about the association. That sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Is that okay with you?
I don't have any further questions at this time. I don't have any further questions at this time.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
I'll be in touch with you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And get a motion to close?
I'll make a motion.
To adjourn.
To adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Jim Farnight.
Go ahead.
I think I want to stick around a little bit. Joe Fitzpatrick, aye.